The explosion shattered the morning calm like thunder breaking glass. Marcus Chen felt it before he heard it, that familiar tremor through concrete that made his combat instincts scream alive for the first time in 3 years. He was halfway through his third cup of coffee at the construction site, welding torch still warm in his gloved hand, when the fireball bloomed 2 blocks away, right where Emma's school stood. Emma! The name tore from his throat as he dropped everything and ran. His work boots pounded against wet pavement from last night's rain, each step a prayer that his 8-year-old daughter was somehow safe. The other workers shouted behind him, but their voices faded into white noise. Nothing mattered except reaching that school. But as Marcus rounded the corner, his heart nearly stopped. The explosion hadn't hit the school. It was a black sedan, now twisted metal and flames, parked directly across from the entrance where parents usually dropped off their kids. Through the smoke and chaos, he saw her, a woman trapped in what remained of the driver's seat, blood streaming down her face, her eyes wide with terror and something else, determination. "Please," she gasped as Marcus approached, other bystanders too shocked to move closer to the burning wreckage. "They're coming back! They'll kill me! Please, you have to—" Marcus didn't think. His hands moved with muscle memory from a life he'd left buried with his wife. He gripped the jammed door, ignoring the searing heat against his palms, and pulled with the strength that had once earned him a place in Delta Force. The metal groaned, fought him, then finally gave way with a shriek. The woman tumbled out, her designer suit torn and blackened, a leather briefcase clutched against her chest like a lifeline. She looked up at him with striking green eyes that held too much intelligence, too much fear, too much knowledge of why someone had just tried to kill her. "Can you walk?" Marcus asked, already scanning the growing crowd for threats, for anyone moving with too much purpose, watching with too much interest. "I think—" She tried to stand, wobbled, and Marcus caught her before she hit the ground. That's when he saw it, the federal badge that had fallen from her jacket. Judge Victoria Castellano. He'd seen her name in the papers, something about organized crime trials, RICO cases that went all the way up to people who didn't like being touched. "We need to get you to a hospital," Marcus said, but she gripped his arm with surprising strength. "No hospitals, no police. They have people everywhere." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I'm already dead. Don't you understand? That explosion, everyone needs to think it worked." Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Parents were arriving, screaming, pushing through the chaos to get to the school. Marcus saw Emma's teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, leading his daughter's class away from the windows, and relief flooded through him so hard his knees almost buckled. Emma was safe. But this woman— "Please," Victoria said again, and in her eyes, Marcus saw the same desperation he'd felt every day since Sarah died, leaving him alone to raise Emma. The desperation of someone with no options left, no one to turn to, standing at the edge of an abyss. "I know you don't know me, but I can see it in your eyes. You're not just another bystander. You know how to handle this. I can tell by the way you're watching the crowd, the way you pulled that door open. Please, just for a few hours, until I can figure out what to do." Marcus thought about Emma, about the quiet life they'd built from the ashes of tragedy. He thought about his job at the shipyard, the small apartment in Brooklyn, where they played board games on Friday nights and made pancakes on Sunday mornings. He thought about all the reasons to walk away, call 911, and let someone else handle this. But he also thought about the last time he'd ignored someone's plea for help. An interpreter in Afghanistan who'd begged for extraction, whose family had been threatened. Marcus had followed orders, stayed on mission. 3 days later, they found the man's body along with his wife and 2 children. "My daughter," Marcus said quietly. "I have to pick her up from school. I'll wait in your truck. I'll hide. Whatever you need. Just please don't leave me here." The crowd was thickening. Someone would recognize her soon. The sirens were only blocks away now. Marcus made the decision that would change everything, though he didn't know it yet. He wrapped his work jacket around Victoria's shoulders, hiding the blood and torn clothes, and led her to his battered Ford pickup, parked at the construction site. "Stay down," he said, helping her into the back of the extended cab. "Cover yourself with that tarp. Don't move until I tell you." As Marcus jogged back toward the school to find Emma, He couldn't shake the feeling that his carefully constructed simple life had just shattered as completely as that car window. But sometimes, he thought, remembering Sarah's words from her hospital bed, the broken pieces can build something even stronger if you're brave enough to pick them up. The Brooklyn shipyard at dawn was Marcus Chen's sanctuary. By 5:30 each morning, while the rest of New York still slept, he was already beneath the massive hull of whatever cargo vessel needed repair, welding torch in hand, finding peace in the shower of sparks and the precise work that demanded total focus. It was honest labor that left him exhausted enough to sleep without dreams, dreams where Sarah still smiled at him from their bed, her hair gone from chemo, but her spirit unbroken until the very end. 3 years. It had been 3 years since pancreatic cancer stole his wife, and Marcus had rebuilt their life piece by careful piece, like welding a broken ship back together. He'd traded his tactical gear for work boots, his rifle for a welding torch, his brotherhood of elite soldiers for the simple camaraderie of dock workers who knew him only as the quiet single dad who never missed a shift and never complained about overtime. "Daddy, why do you always smell like metal?" Emma had asked him once, wrinkling her nose after a particularly long day at the yard. "Because metal is strong, baby girl," he'd told her, tucking her into bed. "And sometimes we need to fix broken things to keep them strong." She'd seemed satisfied with that answer, the way 8-year-olds can be satisfied with simple truths that hide complex realities. Emma didn't know that her father had once been Staff Sergeant Marcus Chen, Delta Force operator with 17 confirmed missions in Afghanistan, Iraq, and places the government still wouldn't acknowledge. She didn't know that the scars on his hands weren't all from welding accidents, or that the nightmares that sometimes woke him came from memories of sand and blood and choices that had seemed right at the time but haunted him still. Their apartment in Sunset Park was small but clean. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen that barely fit 2 people, and a living room dominated by Emma's drawings and school projects. The walls were covered with her artwork, dolphins and whales and sea creatures she'd never seen except in books, drawn with the meticulous detail of a child who struggled with words but understood the world through images. Emma's dyslexia had been diagnosed 2 years ago. The special education program at PS 242 cost extra, money Marcus didn't really have, but somehow always found. He'd sold his truck, picked up double shifts, ate peanut butter sandwiches for lunch every day so Emma could have the tutoring she needed. The teachers said she was brilliant in her own way, her emotional intelligence off the charts, her ability to read people's feelings almost supernatural. She just processed written words differently, like they were puzzles her brain needed extra time to solve. "She sees the world in a unique way," Mrs. Rodriguez had explained during their last parent-teacher conference. "Some children read books easily. Emma reads people. It's a gift, Mr. Chen." A gift. Marcus held on to that word during the hard nights when Emma cried over homework, frustrated that letters seemed to dance and flip on the page. He'd sit with her at their small kitchen table, patient as a sniper on Overwatch, helping her sound out each word while the city hummed outside their window. Their routine was carved in stone. Up at 4:45, shower and coffee while Emma slept. Leave a note with a heart drawn on it next to her breakfast. Always cereal with sliced banana, always a juice box, always the same blue bowl because routine helped her feel safe. Mrs. Chen from next door would walk Emma to school at 8:15, and Marcus would already be 3 hours into his shift at the yard. Afternoons meant picking Emma up from after-school tutoring, homework at the kitchen table, dinner, usually something simple he could make in one pot, then reading together on the couch. Emma would struggle through a few pages while Marcus helped with the hard words. Then he'd take over, giving voices to characters, making her laugh at his terrible British accent when they read Harry Potter. "Daddy," she'd said last week, looking up from her math homework with those serious brown eyes that were so much like Sarah's, it sometimes took his breath away. "Are we poor?" The question had hit him like a physical blow. "Why do you ask, sweetheart?" Melissa's mom said her dad could buy a boat because he has a good job. She said people who work at the docks don't make real money. Marcus had set down the dish he was washing, dried his hands, and sat across from his daughter. "We have everything we need," he'd said carefully. "A home, food, each other. That's not poor, Emma. That's rich in the ways that matter." She'd nodded, but he could see she wasn't entirely convinced. Later that night, after she'd gone to bed, Marcus had sat on their fire escape, looking out at the lights of Manhattan across the water, and wondered if he was failing her. Other kids had college funds. Other kids had parents who could afford summer camps and violin lessons and all the opportunities that money could buy. Emma had a father who loved her more than life itself, but love didn't pay for the things that would open doors for her future. The photograph on his nightstand showed the three of them at Coney Island just 2 months before Sarah's diagnosis. Emma was 5, gap-toothed and giggling, perched on Marcus's shoulders while Sarah leaned against him, her smile radiant. They'd been so happy that day, unaware that cancer cells were already multiplying in Sarah's pancreas, that their time was running out like sand through fingers. Marcus had made Sarah 2 promises in her final days. First, that he would raise Emma to be kind and strong and brave. Second, that he would keep her safe from the violence that had shaped so much of his own life. No guns in the house, no war stories, no reminders of the man he'd been before fatherhood civilized him. Emma would have a normal childhood, free from the shadows that still sometimes made Marcus check corners and scan rooftops and plan escape routes from every room he entered. The lockbox under his bed held his medals, a bronze star, a purple heart, various commendations that meant nothing now except proof of a life he'd left behind. Next to them was Sarah's wedding ring, too small for Emma, yet but saved for when she was older, and $10,000 in cash, emergency money scraped together over 3 years of overtime and sacrifice. It wasn't much, but it was enough to run if they ever had to, enough to start over somewhere else if the past ever caught up. But the past was supposed to stay buried. Marcus had been so careful, changing his last name from Chenikov to Chen when he married Sarah, taking her family name gladly, shedding his Russian heritage like old skin. His former commander had helped scrub his digital footprint, a favor for one of the unit's best operators who just wanted to disappear into civilian life. Marcus Chen, the welder, had no connection to Mikhail Chenikov, the Delta Force sergeant who'd been instrumental in 3 high-value target eliminations that never made the news. The morning ritual at the yard was sacred. Coffee from the truck outside the gates, black, no sugar, in a thermos that had seen better days. Brief nods to the other early arrivals, men who worked with their hands and backs, who understood that some mornings you didn't want to talk, you just wanted to work. The familiar weight of the welding helmet, the hiss of acetylene, the sudden bloom of blue flame that could cut through steel like butter. "Chen," the foreman would call out, "need you on the Maersk Hull, stress fractures near the waterline." And Marcus would go, would lose himself in the work, in fixing things that could be fixed, in problems that had solutions. Not like cancer, not like raising a daughter alone, not like the memories that surfaced at unexpected moments, the weight of a rifle, the face of a target in his scope, the sound of a confirmed kill over comms. This was his life now. Simple, hard, honest. Emma was thriving despite her challenges. They had food, shelter, love. It wasn't the life he'd planned with Sarah, but it was a life worth living, worth protecting. Which is why, as Marcus drove back to the school with Judge Victoria Castellano hidden in his truck, he wondered what the hell he was thinking, bringing danger into their carefully constructed world. But some instincts died harder than others, and the instinct to protect the innocent, to stand between the vulnerable and those who would harm them, that was carved into his bones deeper than any promise to leave violence behind. The school pickup line was chaos. Parents abandoned their cars, running toward the building, despite teachers trying to maintain order. Marcus pushed through the crowd, his heart hammering until he spotted Emma's red backpack among a cluster of second graders being led to the gymnasium. "Emma!" he called out, and she broke from the line, running into his arms. "Daddy, there was a big boom, and Mrs. Rodriguez made us all get under our desks like the earthquake drills. But it wasn't an earthquake, and Melissa started crying, and... Shh, baby, it's okay." Marcus held her tight, checking her over, even though he knew she was fine. "Everything's okay now." Mrs. Rodriguez approached, her usual composed demeanor cracked with stress. "Mr. Chen, I'm so sorry about this morning. The police said it was a car accident, some kind of electrical fire, but they're keeping the children inside until parents can sign them out properly." "I'll take her home now," Marcus said, already filling out the emergency release form she handed him. "She doesn't need to be here for this." Emma was unusually quiet as they walked to the truck, her small hand gripping his tightly. She had that look she got when she was processing something complex, her emotional radar picking up frequencies adults tried to hide. "Daddy," she said as he buckled her into her booster seat. "Why do you keep looking around like the bad guys in movies do?" Marcus forced himself to stop scanning the perimeter. "Just making sure you're safe, sweetheart. That's what daddies do." The drive home took 20 minutes, every second of it agony, as Marcus wondered if the woman hidden under the tarp was still breathing. Emma chattered about her morning, about the math test she thought she'd failed, about Tommy Martinez putting gum in Lucy Walker's hair, normal 8-year-old concerns that seemed surreal given the federal judge bleeding in his truck bed. Their apartment building was quiet, most residents at work. Marcus carried Emma's backpack in one hand, keeping the other on his daughter's shoulder as they climbed to the third floor. Once inside, he set her up with crackers and juice, turned on Netflix, screen time rules be damned today, and told her he needed to get something from the truck. "Can I come?" Emma asked, but he was already heading for the door. "Stay inside, door locked, don't answer for anyone but me. Remember our safety rules?" Emma nodded solemnly. They'd practiced this. If Daddy ever said the safety words, she was to lock the door, call Mrs. Chen next door, and hide in the bathroom with the door locked until he came back. It was a game to her, but Marcus had drilled it enough that muscle memory would take over, if needed. Victoria was conscious when he opened the truck cab, her green eyes tracking his movement with the hypervigilance of prey. The bleeding had slowed, but her skin had taken on a grayish pallor that Marcus recognized from too many battlefield extractions. "We're at my apartment," he said quietly. "Can you walk?" "I think so." Her voice was stronger than he expected. "Is it safe?" "Safer than here." Marcus scanned the street once more, then helped her out. She leaned heavily against him, and he could feel her trembling, shock setting in now that immediate danger had passed. They made it up the stairs without encountering anyone, and Marcus guided her into his apartment just as Emma emerged from the living room. The two females stared at each other, Emma with open curiosity, Victoria with something like panic. "Daddy, why is that lady hurt?" Marcus's mind raced for an explanation that wouldn't traumatize his daughter, but wouldn't insult her intelligence either. Emma could spot a lie faster than most adults. "She was in the accident near your school," he said carefully. "She needed help." Emma studied Victoria with those two wise eyes, taking in the torn designer suit, the blood, the way she held herself like someone expecting attack. Then, in a gesture so purely Emma it made Marcus's chest tight, she disappeared into her room and returned with her favorite stuffed animal, a well-worn elephant named Mr. Peanuts. "This helps when I'm scared," she said, offering it to Victoria. "You can borrow him." Victoria's eyes filled with tears as she accepted the elephant, holding it against her chest like armor. "Thank you," she whispered. "That's very kind. Emma, why don't you go read in your room while I help?" Marcus paused, realizing he couldn't use Victoria's real name. "Tori," Victoria supplied quickly. "My friends call me Tori. While I help Miss Tori clean up." Emma nodded but lingered, that intuitive spark firing. "Miss Tori, are the bad people gone?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Victoria looked at Marcus, then back at Emma. "I hope so, sweetheart. Daddy can keep you safe," Emma said with absolute certainty. "He's the strongest daddy in the whole world. He fixed Mrs. Chen's door when the bad man broke it, and he carried Mr. Rodriguez's whole refrigerator up the stairs by himself." With that endorsement, she headed to her room, Mr. Peanuts' absence apparently a sacrifice worth making for their guest. Once Emma's door closed, Victoria sagged against the wall. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have involved you, either of you. I didn't know where else to go." Marcus guided her to the bathroom, pulling out the first aid kit that was better stocked than most. Old habits dying hard. "Start from the beginning. Who wants you dead?" As he cleaned the cut on her forehead, Victoria talked. Her voice was steady, professional, the kind of detachment that came from discussing trauma like evidence. "I've been presiding over a RICO case. The Benedetto family. What's left of them after the FBI raids last year. But this goes deeper. There are connections to city officials, police commissioners, even," she paused, wincing as Marcus applied antiseptic, "even federal prosecutors. I've been building a parallel investigation off the books. I thought I was careful, but they must have found out. Why not go to the FBI? Witness protection? Victoria laughed bitterly. With whose help? Agent Kozlov, who I saw having dinner with Sal Benedetto's lawyer last month? Marshall Davies, whose mortgage just mysteriously got paid off? I don't know who to trust anymore. Marcus recognized the paranoia of someone who'd seen behind too many curtains, learned that institutions meant to protect could just as easily destroy. He'd felt it himself in Afghanistan when they discovered their interpreter was feeding information to both sides. The briefcase, Victoria continued. Everything's in there. Financial records, photographs, recorded conversations. I was going to deliver it to a journalist this morning, someone outside the system, but they got to me first. Where's the briefcase now? Still in your truck. I held onto it through everything. Marcus finished bandaging her wounds, mostly superficial, except for possible bruised ribs from the seatbelt. She'd been lucky. Car bombs usually didn't leave survivors capable of walking away. You need rest, he said. Take my bed. I'll sleep on the couch. I can't ask. You're not asking. You're hurt. You're in shock, and you need sleep. We'll figure out next steps when you're thinking clearer. Victoria stood, swaying slightly. Without the adrenaline, exhaustion was hitting hard. Why are you helping me? You don't even know me. Marcus thought about the question, about the complicated algorithm of duty and instinct that governed his choices. My wife died 3 years ago. Cancer. Toward the end, when our insurance ran out, a judge in family court went above and beyond to expedite our medical bankruptcy filing, pushed it through in days instead of months, let us keep our home, made sure Emma would be okay. Judge Catherine Park. Victoria's eyes widened. Kathy was my mentor. She trained me when I first joined the bench. Small world. Marcus didn't believe in coincidence, but he believed in circles, in debts that found ways to be repaid. Get some rest. We'll keep you safe. As Victoria settled into his room, still clutching Emma's elephant, Marcus retrieved the briefcase from his truck. It was heavier than it looked, reinforced with steel plates, the kind of case that protected more than documents. He didn't open it, just placed it in his closet next to the lockbox that held his former life. Emma emerged from her room as he was making sandwiches for lunch. Is Miss Torrey going to stay with us? For a little while. Good. Emma climbed onto her stool at the kitchen counter. She's sad like you were after Mommy went to heaven. Maybe we can make her not sad. Marcus looked at his daughter, this tiny person who understood emotional complexity better than most adults, who offered her treasured elephant to a stranger because she recognized pain. Maybe we can, baby girl. As he spread peanut butter on bread, Marcus listened to Victoria's restless sleep in the next room, to Emma humming while she drew at the counter, to the city noise outside that suddenly seemed full of potential threats. He'd invited danger into their home, he knew that. But he also knew that some choices weren't really choices at all. They were just recognition of who you really were when everything else was stripped away. Daddy, Emma said suddenly, I think Miss Torrey is like the hurt birds we sometimes find. Remember what you said? We help them until they can fly again. That's right. But sometimes they stay, Emma continued, her crayon pausing mid-stroke. Like that pigeon with the broken wing who lived on our fire escape for a whole month. Maybe Miss Torrey will stay too. Marcus didn't answer, couldn't answer, because explaining to an 8-year-old that the woman in their bedroom had brought the kind of trouble that didn't just fly away, that was beyond his parenting skills. Instead, he finished making lunch, checked the locks twice, and positioned himself where he could see both the door and the window. Old habits weren't just dying hard. They were resurrection themselves, synapses firing after 3 years of dormancy. And maybe that wasn't entirely bad. Maybe Emma was right, and they could help this wounded bird heal. But first, they had to survive whatever came looking for her. Victoria woke to the sound of laughter, genuine, bright, the kind that felt foreign after months of looking over her shoulder. Through the thin bedroom door, she could hear Emma's voice mixing with her father's deeper tone, and the domestic normalcy of it made her chest ache with something she couldn't name. She emerged to find them in the kitchen, Emma standing on a step stool beside Marcus, both covered in the flour. The counter was a disaster zone of mixing bowls and measuring cups, and Emma had what appeared to be chocolate on her nose. "Miss Tori!" Emma exclaimed, bouncing with excitement. "We're making pizza. Daddy says you need real food, not hospital food. Except, we're not at a hospital, but he meant the sad kind of food people eat when they're hurt." Marcus looked up from the dough he was kneading, a faint blush coloring his cheeks. Emma insisted. "It's Friday. We always make pizza on Fridays." "From scratch?" Victoria couldn't hide her surprise. Most of the single fathers she'd encountered in family court could barely manage microwave dinners. "Daddy says real pizza doesn't come from boxes," Emma explained seriously. "He learned from Mr. Petrov at the docks. He's from Russia and makes the best pizza, even though pizza is Italian, which doesn't make sense, but Daddy says the best food comes from people who miss home." Victoria caught the slight tension in Marcus's shoulders at the mention of Russia, filed it away, with the other inconsistencies she'd noticed. The way he moved too quietly for a man his size, the tactical precision of the first aid treatment, the hypervigilance that spoke of training rather than paranoia. "Can I help?" she asked, surprising herself with the question. Emma's face lit up. "You can put on the toppings, but first you need an apron." She disappeared down the hall, returning with a paint-splattered apron that had clearly seen better days. "This was Mommy's. She painted pictures before she got sick." Victoria accepted the apron carefully, understanding the weight of being offered something that had belonged to Marcus's wife. As she tied it on, she caught Marcus watching her with an unreadable expression. "Sarah was an art therapist," he said quietly. "Worked with kids from difficult situations. Said art could heal things words couldn't touch. She sounds wonderful." She was. The simplicity of his response carried 3 years of grief compressed into 2 words. They worked in comfortable silence for a while, Victoria following Emma's enthusiastic instructions about the proper distribution of pepperoni. They can't touch or they get sad, while Marcus shaped the dough with practiced efficiency. The normalcy of it felt surreal, like she'd stepped through a portal from her world of threats and conspiracies into something altogether different. "Miss Tori," Emma said suddenly, her tone shifting to that too perceptive register that seemed to be her default. "Why were those bad people trying to hurt you?" Marcus started to intervene, but Victoria held up a hand. Children deserve truth, even if simplified. Sometimes when people do bad things, they don't want anyone to stop them. My job is to make sure people who break the law face consequences. Some of them didn't like that. Emma considered this, carefully placing a mushroom. "Like when Tommy Martinez stole lunch money and got mad when I told Mrs. Rodriguez?" "Exactly like that, but with grown-ups." "Grown-ups should know better," Emma said firmly. "Daddy says being big means protecting people who are smaller, not hurting them." Victoria looked at Marcus, who was focused intently on spreading sauce. "Your daddy's right." "He's always right about important stuff," Emma agreed, "except about vegetables. He's wrong about vegetables being good." The tension broke with Marcus's laugh, a sound that transformed his face completely. Victoria realized she was staring and quickly looked away, focusing on the pizza construction. They ate on the living room floor, Emma insisting on what she called picnic style, with paper plates and napkins because fancy dishes make food nervous. Victoria found herself relaxing for the first time in weeks, maybe months. The pizza was surprisingly excellent, the company even better. "Tell Miss Tori about your ocean project," Marcus encouraged Emma, who launched into an enthusiastic explanation of marine ecosystems that was impressive despite her occasional struggle with complex words. The eco... Emma frowned, frustrated. "Ecosystem," Marcus supplied gently. "Ecosystem needs all the parts to work, like how the little fish eat the plants and the big fish eat the little fish, but not in a mean way, just in a circle way. Everything connected." "That's very sophisticated thinking," Victoria said, meaning it. "You understand something many adults don't, how everything affects everything else." Emma beamed. "Daddy helps me with the big words, but I understand the feelings of it, like how the ocean is sad when it's dirty. I can't read all the words good, but I can see the pictures in my head." After dinner, Marcus set Emma up with a documentary about dolphins while he and Victoria cleaned the kitchen. They worked in synchronized quiet, and she was struck by how natural it felt, how her body seemed to know where to move to avoid colliding with his in the small space. "She's remarkable," Victoria said softly. "The way she processes the world. It's not a disability, it's just different wiring. Tell that to the school board that wants to put her in remedial classes." The bitterness in Marcus's voice was sharp. "They see the test scores, not the kid who can look at someone and know exactly what they need to hear. Not the kid who understands complex systems better than most engineers. Have you considered private schools? There are programs specifically for children like Emma. On a welder's salary?" Marcus shook his head. "I've looked, believe me. The waiting lists are years long, and the tuition is more than I make in 6 months." Victoria wanted to offer to help, to write a check that would solve this problem at least, but she recognized the pride in his stance, the determination to provide for his daughter himself. "Sorry," he said after a moment. "It's just, I watch her struggle and know she's brilliant, really brilliant, and the system isn't built for kids like her." "No," Victoria agreed. "It's not. The system isn't built for most people, actually, just for the ones who fit in the predetermined boxes." They moved to the living room, where Emma had fallen asleep on the floor, the documentary still playing. Marcus lifted her carefully, and Victoria followed as he carried her to her room. The walls were covered in drawings, all ocean scenes, all meticulously detailed, despite being done by a child's hand. "She's never seen the ocean," Marcus said quietly, tucking Emma in. "Sarah was going to take her to the beach that summer, after the treatments. We had it all planned, a week in North Carolina, a little rental cottage right on the water. You could still go. Someday." The word carried the weight of all the somedays that might never come, all the promises that depended on money that didn't exist. Back in the living room, Victoria knew she should retreat to the bedroom, maintain boundaries, keep this professional. Instead, she found herself sitting on the couch while Marcus made tea. Chamomile, he said, something Sarah had gotten him into when his insomnia got bad. "Can I ask you something?" Victoria said, accepting the mug gratefully. "Your friend mentioned Russia earlier. Emma said Mr. Petrov taught you to make pizza." Marcus's stillness was answer enough. Special operators had a particular way of going completely motionless when assessing threat levels. "I'm not asking for specifics," she continued carefully. "I'm asking because if my situation puts you and Emma at risk in ways beyond the obvious, I need to know." "My past is buried," he said finally. "Different name, different life. Clean break." "Military?" A nod, nothing more. "Special operations?" Another nod, smaller this time. "Then you understand what we're up against better than most." Victoria set down her mug, pulled her knees to her chest in a gesture that made her look younger, more vulnerable. "The Benedetto family has resources, connections. They own judges, prosecutors, cops. They have former military contractors on payroll." "I know." Marcus's voice was steady. "I recognize the bomb signature. Professional job, meant to look amateur. Whoever built it had training. And you still helped me. Someone helped us once when it mattered. This is how it works, the helping. You pass it forward, even when it's inconvenient, especially when it's dangerous." They sat in silence for a while, the city noise a distant hum beyond the windows. Victoria found herself studying his profile, the slight scar through his left eyebrow, the way he held his body ready even in rest, the gentle expression that appeared whenever he looked toward Emma's room. "I should be gone by tomorrow," she said. "I'll figure something out, contact someone." "Where?" Marcus interrupted. "Where exactly will you go? Who exactly will you contact? You said it yourself. You don't know who to trust." "That doesn't make this your problem." "You're right," he agreed. "It doesn't. But Emma already gave you Mr. Peanuts, and in her world, that makes you family. She doesn't give Mr. Peanuts to just anyone." Victoria felt tears threaten, push them back. "I don't understand you, either of you. This kind of kindness, it doesn't exist in my world." "Then maybe you've been living in the wrong world." The simplicity of the statement hung between them. Victoria thought about her expensive apartment that never felt like home, her designer clothes that felt like armor, her successful career that had somehow led to complete isolation. "One more day," Marcus said. "Give me one more day to figure out a plan. Something better than you, running blind with a briefcase full of evidence and a target on your back." Victoria wanted to protest, to insist she could handle this herself. But the truth was, she was exhausted. and for the first time in months, she felt safe. Not just physically safe, but something deeper, the safety of being with people who helped simply because it was right. One more day, she agreed. As she headed to the bedroom, still wearing Sarah's paint-splattered apron, Victoria turned back. "Marcus, thank you. For the pizza, for Emma, for everything." He nodded, already moving to check the locks, positioning a chair where he could watch the door. A protector by nature, by training, by choice. Victoria fell asleep holding Mr. Peanuts, surrounded by the lingering scent of home-cooked food and the distant sound of Marcus's footsteps as he kept watch through the night. For the first time since discovering the conspiracy, she didn't dream of courtrooms and car bombs. She dreamed of pizza picnics and little girls who saw the world in pictures, of quiet men who made safety look effortless, of families that formed not through blood, but through the simple act of showing up when it mattered most. Saturday morning arrived with deceptive calm. Marcus had barely slept, spending the night alternating between checking windows and researching the Benedetto family on his laptop. What he found wasn't encouraging. Their tentacles reached deeper into the city's infrastructure than Victoria had indicated. Judges who dismissed cases on technicalities, cops who lost evidence, witnesses who disappeared or suddenly developed amnesia. Emma woke early, excited about their unexpected house guest. She knocked softly on the bedroom door where Victoria slept, then appeared in the living room with a concerned expression. "Daddy," Miss Tori was crying in her sleep, "like you used to." Marcus's chest tightened. He'd thought he'd hidden his nightmares from Emma, but children saw everything, especially children like his daughter, who read emotions like others read books. "Sometimes grown-ups have sad dreams," he said carefully. "About people they lost?" "Sometimes, yes." Emma considered this, then disappeared into her room. She returned with a sheet of paper and her box of crayons. "I'm going to make her a happy picture. That's what I did for you, remember? The whale family?" Marcus did remember, a drawing Emma had made after one particularly bad night, showing a whale pod swimming together, which she'd explained meant families stayed together even in the biggest ocean. He still carried it in his wallet. Victoria emerged an hour later, looking more composed despite the shadows under her eyes. She'd changed into some of Sarah's old clothes Marcus had found, jeans and a Columbia University sweatshirt that was too big, but somehow made her look softer, more approachable. "I need to go to the grocery store," Marcus announced, testing the waters. "We're out of milk." "Can we come?" Emma asked immediately. "Please? Miss Tori needs to see our neighborhood. We can show her the good bodega, not the expensive one." Marcus hesitated. Taking Victoria out in public was a risk, but keeping her locked in the apartment would only draw more attention from nosy neighbors. And Emma was right. Sometimes the best way to hide was in plain sight. "Just the corner store," he agreed. "Quick trip." They walked as a unit, Emma between them, chattering about the neighborhood, which buildings had dogs, which stoops were good for sitting, where the ice cream truck stopped on Sundays. Victoria wore one of Marcus's baseball caps, her blonde hair tucked up, looking like any other Saturday morning family running errands. That's when Marcus spotted him. A man in a black sedan parked across from their building, pretending to read a newspaper, but watching their door. Professional surveillance, but not quite professional enough. "Emma," Marcus said calmly, "remember the game we practiced? The one where we change our path?" Emma's hand tightened in his. "The safety game? That's right. We're going to play it now. Fun version, not scary version." Without missing a beat, Emma turned to Victoria. "We're going on an adventure. Daddy knows all the secret ways." Marcus led them through a seemingly casual route, into the bodega, out the back entrance the owner let locals use, through the community garden, across the Methodist church parking lot. His old training kicked in, using crowds and corners, reflective surfaces to check their six. Victoria followed without question, recognizing evasion tactics when she saw them. They emerged 3 blocks from where they'd started, the watcher none the wiser. But Marcus knew this was just the beginning. Where there was one, there would be others. The corner store was cramped and familiar, run by the Patel family who'd been there since before Marcus moved to the neighborhood. Mrs. Patel looked up from her register, did a double take at Victoria, but said nothing beyond her usual greeting. "Mr. Marcus, Emma, how are you this beautiful morning?" "Good, Mrs." "P," Emma responded, already heading for the cereal aisle. "We have a friend visiting." Mrs. Patel's keen eyes assessed Victoria with the intensity of someone who'd survived partition and knew how to read danger. "A friend from work?" she asked Marcus carefully. "Something like that?" The older woman nodded slowly. "Friends are important. Family we choose, yes? You let me know if your friend needs anything at all." It was a subtle offer of help, the kind that immigrant communities perfected. Assistance without questions, support without judgment. They were selecting milk when it happened. Two men entered the store, their casual clothes not quite hiding the purpose in their movements. Marcus recognized the body language immediately. Hunters who'd caught a scent. "Emma," he said quietly, "go show Miss Tori where the good cookies are, the ones Mrs. Patel keeps in the back." His daughter looked up at him, and he saw Sarah's intelligence flash in her eyes. She took Victoria's hand without argument. "This way. They're special cookies from India." The men split up, one heading toward the back of the store, the other staying by the door. Marcus moved to intercept the first, picking up a shopping basket as cover. The collision looked accidental, Marcus's elbow catching the man in the solar plexus as they both reached for soup cans. "So sorry," Marcus said loudly, steadying the gasping man. "These narrow aisles, right?" The second man started forward but stopped as Mr. Patel emerged from behind the counter with a baseball bat, ostensibly to prop open the back door, but holding it in a way that suggested other uses. "Gentlemen," Mrs. Patel called out cheerfully, "you are new to neighborhood, yes? We have special for new customers. Please come, I show you." It was a masterclass in community protection. Within seconds, 3 other regular customers had positioned themselves strategically, including old Mr. Chen from Marcus's building, who just happened to need items from multiple aisles that put him between the men and the back exit. Victoria and Emma returned, Emma carrying a package of cookies, both trying to look normal. The first man had recovered his breath, but found his path blocked by Marcus, who was now intently studying soup labels. "We should go," one man said to the other. "Wrong store." They left quickly, and the tension in the store dissolved into busy normalcy. Mrs. Patel rang up Marcus's items without comment, though she slipped an extra container of milk into his bag. "For your friend," she said simply. "Good to have enough." Walking home took a different route, Marcus's senses on high alert. Emma held Victoria's hand now, telling her about the cookies, but Marcus caught his daughter's occasional glances, checking corners, noting escape routes, following his lead without being told. Back in the apartment, Emma went to her room without being asked, understanding adult conversation was coming. Marcus checked the windows, then turned to Victoria, who'd gone pale. "They found me." "They found something," Marcus corrected. Maybe just sniffing around anyone new in the neighborhood. Either way, we need to move. I'll leave, right now. This is exactly what I didn't want." "And go where?" Marcus interrupted. "You walk out that door alone, you're dead within an hour. Those weren't random thugs, those were professionals. Military contractors, probably Eastern European from their movement patterns." Victoria sank onto the couch. "I'm so sorry. Emma, she was incredible back there. She knew exactly what was happening. We've practiced. After Sarah died, I maybe got a little paranoid, taught her things most kids don't need to know." Marcus ran a hand through his hair, calculating options. "We can't stay here, but we can't run blind either." "The briefcase," Victoria said suddenly. "If I could get it to the right person." "Who? You trust anyone at the FBI, the Marshal Service, NYPD?" She was quiet for a moment. "There's a detective, Diane Walsh. She worked organized crime for 20 years, never took a penny. Benedetto tried to buy her, tried to threaten her, finally got her transferred to cold cases. She might. You sure about her?" "As sure as I can be about anyone." Marcus nodded, already forming a plan. "I need to make some calls. Old friends who might help with transportation, safe house, maybe." The sound of breaking glass from Emma's room cut him off. Marcus moved before thinking, muscle memory launching him down the hall. He burst through Emma's door to find her window shattered, a brick on the floor wrapped in paper. Emma stood frozen by her closet, eyes wide with fear. "Daddy!" Marcus crossed to her in 2 strides, pulling her against him, checking for injuries. "You're okay, baby, you're okay." With Emma clinging to him, he picked up the brick. The note was simple. "Give us the judge or the girl learns what happens to families who interfere." Victoria appeared in the doorway, saw the note, and her face went white. Oh God, I'm so sorry. Pack, Marcus said, his voice dropping into the command tone he hadn't used in 3 years. Emma, your emergency backpack, the one we practiced. Tori, whatever you can fit in a bag in 2 minutes. Move. Emma ran to her closet, pulling out the backpack they'd packed together. Clothes, copies of important documents, the photo of Sarah, Mr. Peanuts. She moved with efficiency that would have been heartbreaking if Marcus had time to process it. Victoria stood frozen. They threatened Emma. They actually— Focus, Marcus snapped. Guilt later, survival now. The harsh tone shocked her into action. She ran to gather her things while Marcus retrieved his emergency kit from under his bed. The cash, the documents, and something he'd sworn he'd never touch again. A Glock 19 in a concealed carry holster, maintained and loaded despite 3 years of storage. Emma saw the gun as he strapped it on under his jacket. Her face didn't change, but he saw her process this new information, adding it to her understanding of who her father really was. The bad people are real bad this time, aren't they, Daddy? Yes, baby, they are. But you're badder, she said with absolute confidence, when you need to be. Marcus didn't know whether to be proud or heartbroken that his 8-year-old daughter understood situational violence. Maybe both. Definitely both. They left through the basement, Mr. Chen creating a distraction by loudly arguing with the super about a water leak. Mrs. Patel's son was waiting in the alley with a decade-old Honda Civic, keys in hand. My mom says you need this more than me today, he said simply. Tank's full. God bless. As they drove away from the only home Emma remembered, Marcus caught sight of 2 more cars converging on their building. They'd gotten out just in time. Where are we going, Daddy? Emma asked from the back seat. Mr. Peanuts clutched to her chest. Marcus met Victoria's eyes. She was crying silently, the weight of endangering a child crushing her. But there was steel there, too, the same determination that had made her take on the mob in the first place. Somewhere safe, he told Emma. And then, we're going to stop the bad people. All of them. Together? Emma asked. Marcus looked at his daughter in the rearview mirror, then at the woman beside him, who'd brought danger into their lives, but also something else. Purpose beyond mere survival. Together, he confirmed. The Honda disappeared into the maze of Brooklyn traffic. 3 unlikely allies bound by circumstance, and a brick through a window. The real test was just beginning, and Marcus knew that by the time it was over, none of them would be the same. The question was whether they'd all survive to see who they'd become. The motel outside Newark was the kind of place that didn't ask questions when you paid cash. Marcus registered them as a family, the exhausted clerk barely glancing up from his phone. Room 237, 2nd floor, with a view of the parking lot and 2 exits. Marcus had insisted on those details. Emma was asleep on one of the beds, still clutching Mr. Peanuts, her small body finally surrendering to the stress of the day. Victoria sat at the small table, the briefcase open before her, documents spread like evidence of a life about to shatter. Marcus stood by the window, watching the parking lot with the patience of someone trained to wait for hours without moving. We can't keep running, Victoria said quietly. They have resources we don't. We're not running, we're regrouping. Marcus checked his phone. 3 missed calls from his foreman, 12 from Mrs. Chen, and 1 text from an unknown number that just said, Brooklyn was a miss, Newark next. They'd found them already. How? Victoria's voice cracked. How do they keep finding us? Marcus picked up her phone, turned it over, then grabbed his multi-tool. With practiced efficiency, he pried open the case and extracted a chip smaller than a fingernail. Tracker. Probably placed it when they had access to your chambers. He crushed it under his boot. They've been following you since before the car bomb. Victoria stared at the destroyed tracker, the implications washing over her. Then they know. They've known everything. Every place I've gone. Everyone I've talked to. Detective Walsh, Marcus said grimly. They know you want to contact her. Oh, God. Victoria grabbed her burner phone, dialing rapidly. It rang once, twice, then Walsh's voice, tired but alert. Diane, it's Victoria. Listen, don't go home tonight. Don't go anywhere predictable. The sound of squealing tires cut through the phone, followed by gunshots and Walsh screaming. Then nothing. Victoria's hands shook as she set down the phone. They killed her. They killed her because of me. You don't know that. Stop. Victoria's composure finally cracked completely. Stop trying to make me feel better. I'm a judge. I'm supposed to uphold justice, protect people. Instead, everyone around me is dying or in danger. Your daughter, God, Marcus, your 8-year-old daughter has a target on her back because of me. The sound of Emma stirring stopped Marcus's response. His daughter sat up, rubbing her eyes, that uncanny perception already reading the room. Miss Tori's really sad, Daddy. Victoria tried to compose herself, wiping her tears. I'm okay, sweetheart. Just tired. Emma studied her for a long moment, then slid off the bed and walked over to Victoria. Without a word, she climbed into the woman's lap, wrapping her small arms around Victoria's neck. When Mommy was dying, Emma said softly, she told me that sometimes being brave means letting people see you cry. It's okay to be scared. We're all scared, but we're scared together. Victoria broke then, sobbing into Emma's hair, while the little girl held her with strength beyond her years. Marcus watched them, something shifting in his chest at the sight of his daughter comforting this woman who'd been a stranger 3 days ago. His phone buzzed. Marcus checked it, expecting another threat. Instead, it was a number he hadn't seen in 3 years. Storm's coming. Need shelter? Wolf. Wolf. Alexei Volkov, his old spotter from before Delta Force, when Marcus had been Mikhail Chenikov, Russian immigrant turned army sniper. They'd saved each other's lives more times than counting made sense. Marcus typed back, 3 for dinner, allergic to Italian food. The response was immediate. Understood, Safe House Charlie, 0200. Get packed, Marcus said. We're moving in an hour. Where? Victoria asked, still holding Emma. Someone I trust. Actually trust, not maybe trust. They moved efficiently, erasing their presence from the room. Emma helped, wiping down surfaces with wet towels, a game they'd practiced but never needed until now. As they prepared to leave, Marcus heard it. Engines, multiple vehicles, moving too slowly for normal traffic. Back window, he said calmly. Emergency stairs. Victoria lifted Emma, who wrapped her legs around her waist without protest. Marcus went first, Glock drawn, checking angles. The metal stairs creaked but held. They were halfway down when the first vehicle pulled into the parking lot. A black SUV with tinted windows. Run, Marcus whispered. They sprinted across the back lot, Emma bouncing in Victoria's arms but staying silent. The Honda was parked behind a dumpster, hidden from the main approach. Marcus had the engine running before Victoria got Emma buckled in. The SUV's occupants were already at their room, the door being kicked in just as Marcus pulled onto the access road. He drove normally, fighting every instinct to floor it. A speeding car drew attention. A family sedan, obeying traffic laws, was invisible. Daddy, Emma said from the back seat. Are we going to see your friend from before, from when you were different? Marcus met her eyes in the mirror. His daughter knew. Of course she knew. She'd probably known for longer than he'd realized. Yes, baby. Good. We need help from someone like you used to be. The words stung and comforted simultaneously. Emma understood that the father who made pancakes and helped with homework had another side, a darker capability that their situation now required. Safe House Charlie was a warehouse in Passaic, abandoned-looking but strategically located with sight lines and exit routes. Marcus parked 2 blocks away, approaching on foot while Victoria and Emma waited. Old habits, never approach a meet straight on, always have a fallback plan. Alexei Volkov stood in the loading dock's shadow, unchanged except for more gray in his beard, still built like a bear, still had eyes that missed nothing. Mikhail, he said in Russian, though I hear it's Marcus now. It's been Marcus for 6 years. The cop broadcastings are interesting. Single father harboring federal judge, possible kidnapping, armed and dangerous. Alexei smiled. Sounds like old times, except for the child. It's not what they're saying. It never is. Alexei switched to English. Bring them. The warehouse is clean. Marcus retrieved Victoria and Emma, Alexei's expression softening when he saw the little girl. You must be Emma, he said, crouching to her level. Your father told me stories about you before, how you're the smartest person he knows. Emma studied him solemnly. You knew my daddy when he was a soldier. I did. He saved my life, more than once. Will you help us save Miss Tori? Alexei looked at Victoria, cataloging threats and assets in a glance. Is Miss Tori worth saving? Yes, Emma said firmly. She's going to be family. The statement hung in the air. Marcus started to correct her, but Victoria spoke first. Emma, sweetheart, we're not. You are, Emma insisted with that devastating certainty children possessed. I can tell. The way you look at each other when you think nobody sees, like Mommy and Daddy used to look. Marcus felt heat rise in his face. This was not the time for his daughter's emotional reconnaissance. Alexei laughed, a deep rumble that echoed in the empty warehouse. From the mouths of babes, come, let's get inside before someone notices. The warehouse interior was more sophisticated than its exterior suggested. Reinforced walls, electronic countermeasures, stockpiled supplies. Alexei had always been paranoid. Now that paranoia was salvation. Tell me everything, Alexei said. Victoria laid it out. The RICO case, the conspiracy, the evidence in her briefcase that connected half the city's power structure to organized crime. Alexei listened without interrupting, occasionally making notes in Cyrillic. The Benedetto family, he said finally. They contract with Bratva sometimes. Russian connections. I can make inquiries. We need to get the evidence to someone clean, Marcus said. FBI has a leak. Marshals are compromised. NYPD is split. What about military? Alexei suggested. Your old commander, Colonel Morrison. He's Pentagon now. This touches federal crime. He could involve military intelligence. Marcus considered it. Morrison was solid, but military involvement meant official channels, paperwork, Emma's name in files. There's another way, Victoria said quietly. We make it public, all of it. Press conference, live stream, make it impossible to bury. That's suicide, Marcus said flatly. You'd be dead before you spoke 2 sentences. Not if we control the venue, somewhere public, lots of cameras, lots of witnesses. Like where? Victoria pulled out a document from the briefcase. The federal courthouse. There's a memorial service tomorrow for Judge Catherine Park. Every judge in the district will be there, plus media, security. If I could get inside... It's a trap, Alexei interrupted. They'll expect you there. Maybe. But it's also the one place with federal security not connected to NYPD. The marshals running courthouse security are from the D.C. office, rotated in special for the memorial. Marcus saw the logic, but hated the risk. Even if you get in, make your statement, then what? You're still a target. But the evidence is out. The conspiracy is exposed. They'd have no reason to hurt Emma anymore. Emma, who'd been quietly drawing at a nearby table, looked up. I want to help. No, Marcus and Victoria said simultaneously. Listen, Emma said with startling authority. The bad people are bad because they think they can hurt anyone. But if everyone sees them being bad, they can't pretend to be good anymore. Miss Tori needs to tell the truth, and we need to help her. It's too dangerous, Marcus began. Daddy? Emma set down her crayon, fixing him with Sarah's eyes. You taught me that doing right isn't always safe. That's what makes it brave. Alexei chuckled. Your daughter is warrior like her father, like her mother too, I think. Marcus felt the walls closing in. Every instinct screamed to run, to take Emma and disappear, start over somewhere the Benedettos couldn't reach. But Victoria was right. Running meant always looking over their shoulders. And Emma was right too. Sometimes doing right meant accepting danger. If we do this, he said slowly, we do it my way. Full tactical planning, contingencies for contingencies. Victoria nodded, hope flickering in her eyes for the first time since the car bomb. I'll help, Alexei said. Old time's sake. Plus, I never liked Benedettos. Bad for business. They worked through the night, mapping the courthouse, identifying entry points, planning for every scenario Marcus could imagine, and several Alexei invented. Emma fell asleep on a makeshift bed of moving blankets. Her picture, a family of 3 standing together against shadows, left on the table. At dawn, Victoria stood on the warehouse's loading dock, watching the sun rise over industrial New Jersey. Marcus joined her, bringing coffee Alexei had somehow produced. Your daughter's right, Victoria said quietly, about us looking at each other. Marcus said nothing, but didn't move away when she leaned against his shoulder. "If this goes wrong," she began, "it won't. But if it does, I need you to know something. These 3 days, being with you and Emma, it's the first time I've felt like I was part of something real, something that mattered beyond career and cases." Marcus turned to face her, seeing past the federal judge to the woman who'd held his crying daughter, who'd made pizza with flour in her hair, who'd stood her ground against impossible odds. "After Sarah died, I thought that part of me died too, the part that could care about someone new." He paused, choosing words carefully. "You proved me wrong." Victoria reached up, touching the scar on his eyebrow gently. "We're quite a pair, a judge with a death warrant and an ex-soldier pretending to be a welder." "Ex-Delta Force," Marcus corrected quietly. "And I wasn't pretending. I am a welder. Just happens I'm other things too. Like a hero, like a father, everything else is secondary." They stood there, watching the city wake up, both knowing that in a few hours everything would change. Either Victoria would expose the conspiracy and they'd have a chance at a future, or, "Daddy," Emma's voice came from inside. "Miss Tori, Uncle Alexi says breakfast is ready." The moment broke, but something had shifted. Whatever happened at the courthouse, they would face it together. A reformed soldier, a marked judge, and a little girl who saw the world more clearly than most adults. As they walked inside, Victoria took Marcus's hand. He squeezed it once, a promise without words. The war was coming to them. But for the first time since the car bomb, Marcus believed they might actually win. The federal courthouse memorial service for Judge Catherine Park was a fortress of security. Black SUVs lined the streets, federal marshals at every entrance, metal detectors and ID checks creating bottlenecks of mourners and media. Marcus watched it all through binoculars from a building across the plaza, Alexei beside him, both men reading the patterns like a familiar language. 17 marshals visible, probably 10 more plainclothes, Alexei murmured. 2 sniper positions on the courthouse roof, 1 on the federal building. "They're not looking for threats," Marcus observed. "They're looking for her. See how they're checking every woman more carefully?" Down in the van parked 3 blocks away, Victoria sat with Emma, both dressed in black. The plan was simple in concept, nearly impossible in execution. Get Victoria inside during the memorial's climax, when security would be focused on the speakers, not the crowd. "I should go alone," Victoria said for the 10th time. "Emma shouldn't be anywhere near this." "I'm your cover," Emma said firmly, repeating what they'd rehearsed. "A woman and child visiting a memorial is normal. A woman alone is suspicious." Marcus's voice crackled through their earpieces. Movement at the north entrance, Benedetto soldiers, 3 of them, dressed as mourners. Victoria's hands clenched. The enemy was already inside. "Abort," Marcus said immediately. "We'll find another way." "No." Victoria's voice was steel. "If they're inside, it means they think I might show. Which means we're right. This is our best shot." "Miss Tori," Emma said quietly. "Are you scared?" "Terrified." "Good. Daddy says fear keeps us sharp. We just can't let it make our choices for us." At 11:47, they moved. Victoria and Emma walked hand in hand toward the courthouse's east entrance, the one furthest from where the Benedetto men had entered. Emma carried a small bouquet of flowers, white roses for remembrance. Victoria carried a black purse with the briefcase's contents converted to a flash drive hidden in the lining. The marshal at the entrance was young, thorough, his eyes scanning Victoria's face against something on his phone. "Name?" he asked. "Sarah Chen," Victoria said, using Marcus's wife's name. "This is my daughter Emma. Judge Park helped us during a difficult custody case." The marshal's expression softened slightly. A custody case. Domestic, non-threatening, boring. Emma sold it by sniffling, wiping her eyes with genuine emotion as she thought about the story they had created. "She was nice," Emma whispered. "She said I was brave." The marshal waved them through. Inside, the courthouse atrium was packed. Judges in robes, lawyers in expensive suits, reporters with discreet cameras. Victoria kept her head down, letting Emma lead them toward seats in the back. Through her earpiece, she heard Marcus coordinating with Alexei. 2 more Benedetto soldiers by the main stairs. "They're watching the crowd." Victoria scanned the room, noting positions, exits, threats. The podium where speakers would address the crowd was 20 feet away. If she could reach it, the cameras would protect her. No one would dare attack on live television. The service began with a federal judge Victoria knew, talking about Catherine Park's dedication to justice. Victoria barely heard the words, her focus on the men moving through the crowd with purpose, searching faces. "They're getting closer," Marcus warned. "Northwest section, heading your way." Emma squeezed Victoria's hand. "When?" she whispered. "Soon." The second speaker began, the chief judge of the Second Circuit. This was it. During the applause transition to the third speaker, Victoria would move. But as the applause began, everything went wrong. "Gun!" someone screamed. Chaos erupted. The crowd surged, people running, pushing, falling. Victoria saw one of the Benedetto men pointing at her, shouting into a radio. She lifted Emma, trying to push toward the podium, but the crowd's panic worked against them. A hand grabbed her shoulder. Victoria spun, expecting attack, but found Detective Diane Walsh, alive, bandaged, but alive. "Thought they got me," Walsh said grimly. "Takes more than a drive-by to kill this Irish bitch. Come on." Walsh led them against the crowd's flow, her badge clearing paths. But more Benedetto men were converging, and now legitimate security was responding to the gun alert, adding to the chaos. "Victoria!" A familiar voice. Leonard Kozlov, the FBI agent she'd suspected of corruption, appeared with his weapon drawn. "Stop! You're under arrest!" Walsh stepped between them. "Back off, Kozlov. She's coming with me." "You have no jurisdiction here, Walsh. And you have no soul, you corrupt piece of—" The gunshot was impossibly loud in the marble atrium. Walsh crumpled, blood spreading from her chest. Kozlov stood frozen, his weapon still pointed at where she'd been standing. "I didn't—" he started, then looked at his gun in horror. "I didn't pull the trigger." Victoria saw the real shooter, a Benedetto soldier with a matching FBI weapon, using the chaos as cover. Emma was screaming, the sound piercing through the mayhem. "Daddy!" Emma's voice cut through everything. "Daddy! Help!" The skylight shattered. Marcus dropped through it on a fast rope, tactical gear replacing his civilian clothes, an MP5 in his hands, Alexei's contribution. He landed in the crowd's center, a figure from another life entirely, all lethal grace and controlled violence. "Federal agent!" someone screamed, but Marcus wasn't federal anything. He was a father whose daughter was in danger, and God help anyone in his way. The first Benedetto soldier raised his weapon. Marcus's burst dropped him before his finger found the trigger. The second tried to grab a hostage. Marcus shot out his knee, then knocked him unconscious with the rifle stock. The crowd scattered completely now, leaving clear sightlines. "Emma! Victoria! Move to the podium!" Marcus commanded, but Kozlov, confused and panicking, pointed his weapon at Marcus. "Drop the weapon! Drop it now!" "Kozlov! You idiot!" Victoria screamed. "He's protecting us!" More gunshots. Alexei had entered from another point, engaging Benedetto soldiers trying to flank them. The memorial service had become a battleground, cameras rolling, broadcasting live as Marcus fought through attackers to reach his daughter. Emma broke free from Victoria's arms, running toward the podium's microphone. She grabbed it before anyone could stop her, her child's voice amplified through the courthouse. "Stop!" she screamed. "Stop hurting people!" The pure anguish in her voice froze everyone. This wasn't part of any plan. This was an 8-year-old girl watching violence explode around her, watching adults fail at being human. "Miss Walsh is dying," Emma continued, tears streaming. "She's dying, and you're all still fighting. My mommy died, and it was nobody's fault, but this is everybody's fault. Miss Tori has proof that bad people are doing bad things, and instead of listening, you're shooting." Victoria reached the podium, pulling Emma against her, but keeping the microphone. "She's right," Victoria said, her judge's voice carrying despite her terror. "I have evidence of conspiracy between the Benedetto crime family and officials at every level of government. FBI, NYPD, federal prosecutors, even judges. They tried to kill me to stop this information from coming out." She held up the flash drive. "It's all here. Financial records, recorded conversations, proof of murder, bribery, and treason against justice itself." "She's lying," someone shouted. Vincent Benedetto himself, stepping from behind a pillar where he'd been watching. "This woman is mentally unstable. She kidnapped that child." "No," Emma said into the microphone. "She saved us, and my daddy saved her, because that's what good people do." Marcus had reached them now, weapon covering the crowd, while sirens wailed outside. Federal marshals were pouring in, but nobody knew who to arrest, who to protect, who was threat or hero. "Vincent Benedetto," Victoria said clearly for the cameras, "I have a recording of you ordering the murder of 3 witnesses, including Judge Catherine Park." The room went silent except for Walsh's labored breathing where medics worked on her. "Catherine wasn't sick," Victoria continued. "She was poisoned, slowly, carefully, to look like cancer. Just like you tried to poison me when the car bomb failed." Vincent pulled a gun. "You judicial bitch!" Marcus's shot took him in the shoulder, spinning him down. The gun clattered away as federal marshals finally acted, swarming Vincent and his men. But the victory felt hollow. Walsh was being rushed out on a stretcher, her survival uncertain. The courthouse was a crime scene. And Emma. Emma was sobbing in Victoria's arms, the weight of violence she should never have witnessed crushing her innocence. "I want to go home," she whispered. "Please, can we just go home?" But there was no home to go to. Their apartment was compromised. Marcus was now on camera as an armed vigilante. Victoria was exposed to every enemy the Benedettos had. Colonel Morrison arrived with military police, Marcus's old commander taking control with authority that superseded local law enforcement. "Sergeant Chenikov," he said formally, "or should I say Chen, you've created quite a situation." "Sir, Save it. We'll sort this at a secure location." Morrison looked at Victoria and Emma. "All of you, protective custody until we understand the full scope of this conspiracy." As they were let out through a secured exit, media shouting questions, cameras capturing everything, Marcus carried Emma while Victoria walked beside them. His daughter hadn't stopped crying, hadn't let go of his neck. "I'm sorry, baby," he whispered. "I'm so sorry you had to see that." "The lady died," Emma said against his shoulder. "Miss Walsh died because she was helping us." Marcus didn't correct her, didn't know if Walsh would survive. The weight of that possibility, of someone else dying because of choices he'd made, pressed down like all his old ghosts combined. They were separated at the military facility, Victoria to be debriefed, Emma to be examined by child psychiatrists, Marcus to face questions about everything from his false identity to his unauthorized military action on U.S. soil. Hours passed. Marcus answered questions mechanically, his mind on Emma. They wouldn't let him see her, said she needed to be evaluated for trauma response. Victoria was somewhere else in the building, probably facing her own interrogation. Finally, near midnight, Morrison entered alone. "The good news," he said, "is that Walsh will live. Lost a lot of blood, but she's stable." Marcus sagged with relief. "The bad news is this is a mess that'll take months to untangle. The Benedetto connections go deep. 17 arrests so far, including 3 federal judges and an assistant FBI director. My daughter is asking for you and for Judge Castellano." Morrison's expression softened slightly. "Marcus, what you did today saved lives, but it also exposed you. Every enemy you made in your previous life now knows exactly where to find you." The weight of that settled in. The careful life he'd built was gone. No more anonymous welding job, no more quiet apartment in Brooklyn, no more pretending the past didn't exist. "What are our options?" Marcus asked. "Witness protection, new identities for all 3 of you. Start over somewhere far from here." "All 3? Morrison almost smiled. "Your daughter was quite insistent that Judge Castellano is family now. Made quite the compelling argument to the psychiatrist about how families form through choice and circumstance, not just blood." Before Marcus could respond, the door opened. Emma ran in, launching herself into his arms. "Daddy, they said we have to move away, but Miss Tori can come with us." Victoria appeared behind her, looking exhausted but relieved. "If you'll have me," she said quietly. "I know this isn't what you signed up for." "Stop," Marcus said. "Emma's right. We're family now. Whatever that means, wherever that takes us." Emma looked between them with the first smile since the shooting. "Does this mean Miss Tori can teach me about law stuff and Daddy can teach me about fixing things? and we can all teach each other about being brave." Victoria laughed through tears, pulling both of them into an embrace. "Yes, sweetheart, all of that." Morrison cleared his throat. "You have 48 hours to decide. The Marshal Service will relocate you anywhere in the country. New names, new histories, new start." As they stood there, soldier, judge, and child, Marcus realized that sometimes losing everything was the only way to find what really mattered. The life they'd known was over, but perhaps what came next would be worth the price. "Together," Emma said firmly, as if stating a verdict. "Whatever happens, we do it together." And in that moment, despite everything lost and all the uncertainty ahead, Marcus believed her. The safe house in Virginia was nothing like home. It was a colonial-style house in a suburb where every lawn was perfect and every neighbor smiled without making eye contact. Marcus stood at the window of what was supposed to be their new living room, watching Emma sit alone on the porch steps, Mr. Peanuts clutched against her chest. She hadn't spoken in 2 days. The psychiatrist said it was normal, trauma response, processing violence she should never have witnessed. But Marcus knew his daughter. This wasn't just trauma. This was Emma wrestling with something deeper. "She'll come around," Victoria said softly, joining him at the window. She'd adapted to their situation with judge-like compartmentalization, but Marcus saw the cracks, the way her hands shook making coffee, how she checked locks obsessively, the nightmares that woke her gasping. "I did this to her," Marcus said. "I brought violence back into our lives after promising Sarah. You saved lives. You saved my life. At what cost?" Marcus turned to face her. "Look at her, Victoria. That's not the girl who made you pizza 4 days ago. That light in her eyes is still there." Victoria's voice was firm. "I see it when she looks at you, when she holds my hand. It's dimmed, not extinguished." Colonel Morrison arrived that afternoon with final paperwork for their new identities. The Brennan family, Michael, Victoria, and Emma Brennan. Marcus would be a security consultant. Victoria would be a legal advisor for a nonprofit. Emma would be just another third grader at Meadowbrook Elementary. "Sign here, and Marcus Chen ceases to exist," Morrison said, along with everything attached to that name. Marcus hesitated, pen hovering. In the other room, he could hear Victoria trying to coax Emma into eating lunch, their new supposed daughter still maintaining her silence. "I need to talk to her first," Marcus said. Morrison nodded. "Take your time. This only works if you're all committed." Marcus found Emma in the backyard, sitting under an oak tree that reminded him of one in Brooklyn's Prospect Park. She was drawing, not her usual ocean scenes, but something darker, all sharp angles and shadows. "Can I sit?" he asked. Emma nodded but didn't look up. "I know you're angry," Marcus began, "at me, at the situation, maybe at the whole world." "I'm not angry." Her voice was so quiet he almost missed it. "I'm confused." "About what, baby?" Emma finally looked up, and the weight in her 8-year-old eyes was devastating. "You were someone else, before Mommy, before me. You were scary. Yes, but also good? You hurt bad people to save good people." "Sometimes, not always. Sometimes I just followed orders." Emma considered this, returning to her drawing. "Miss Walsh almost died. But she didn't. She's going to be okay. Because of you, because you became the scary person again." Emma set down her crayon. "Daddy, what if I have that inside me too? The scary part?" Marcus felt his heart break. This was his legacy, not medals or commendations, but a daughter afraid of her own potential for violence. "Come here," he said, opening his arms. Emma hesitated, then crawled into his lap. "You know what makes you special? It's not anything scary inside you. It's your heart, the way you see people's feelings, the way you want to help. That's from Mommy, not from me." "But you have a good heart too," Emma protested. "That's why you saved Miss Tori." "Maybe, but your heart is pure good, Emma. No shadows, no scary parts. You're the best of both of us without any of the worst." Emma was quiet for a moment. "Are we really going to be the Brennans now?" "Only if you want to. This is a family decision." "Will Miss Tori really be my mom?" Marcus looked toward the house where Victoria stood watching them from the kitchen window. "Not legally at first, but maybe someday, if that's what we all want." "I think Mommy would like her," Emma said softly. "She's smart and brave, and she cries at the right times." That night, they had their first real dinner together in the new house. Victoria had attempted spaghetti, overcooked noodles, sauce from a jar, but made with effort that mattered more than skill. Emma ate small bites, occasionally offering tiny smiles when Victoria made self-deprecating jokes about her cooking. In our new life, Victoria said, I promise to take cooking classes. I'll teach you, Emma offered quietly. Daddy taught me. We can teach each other things. It was the most she'd spoken all day. After Emma went to bed, Marcus and Victoria sat on the porch, sharing a bottle of wine Morrison had left. A housewarming gift, he'd called it, with typical military humor. She's coming back, Victoria said. I can see it. Because of you, she needs a mother figure. She needs her father whole. Victoria turned to face him. Marcus, you can't keep splitting yourself. The soldier and the father, the protector and the nurturer, they're all you. The soldier got people killed. The soldier saved people. The father loves his daughter. The man, she paused, reaching for his hand. The man is someone I'm falling in love with, all parts included. Marcus studied their intertwined fingers. We've known each other 5 days. 5 days of more truth than most people share in years. I've seen you at your most violent and your most tender. I've seen you kill to protect and cry for your daughter's innocence. If that's not knowing someone, what is? Before Marcus could respond, Emma's scream pierced the night. They ran to her room, finding her sitting up in bed, sobbing from a nightmare. But when she saw them both in her doorway, something shifted in her expression. You both came, she whispered. Always, Victoria said, sitting on one side of the bed while Marcus took the other. Bad dream? Emma nodded. The courthouse, but different. Nobody stopped fighting. Everyone just kept hurting each other forever. That's not what happened, Marcus reminded her. The fighting stopped. The bad people were arrested. Because you stopped them. Emma looked between them. Both of you, together. She lay back down, but held both their hands. Will you stay, both of you, until I fall asleep? They stayed, and somehow, without planning, they all fell asleep there. Emma in the middle, her parents by circumstance on either side, 3 broken people forming something whole. Marcus woke at dawn to find Emma drawing again, but this time it was the ocean, calm, with 3 dolphins swimming together. It's us, she explained when she saw him watching. The daddy dolphin who protects, the mommy dolphin who's smart, and the baby dolphin who helps them remember to play. When did Miss Tori become the mommy dolphin? Emma gave him a look that was pure Sarah, exasperated affection for male obtuseness. She's been the mommy dolphin since she held me at the courthouse, Daddy. You're just slow at seeing things sometimes. Victoria stirred, heard the conversation, and laughed softly. Out of the mouths of babes. So we're really doing this? Marcus asked. Becoming the Brennans? I want to, Emma said firmly. I want a family again. Not a replacement family, but a new family. Miss Tori, Mom. She tested the word, then nodded. Mom can teach me law things and words. Daddy can teach me fixing things and being strong. And I can teach both of you about feelings and dolphins. Victoria had tears in her eyes. You'd call me Mom? If you want. Or Victoria, or Tori. But I think Mom is nice. Marcus made the decision that had been building since the moment Victoria held his daughter in chaos. Then we're the Brennans. Michael, Victoria, and Emma Brennan, starting over. Together, Emma added, their word that had become a promise. That afternoon, they signed the papers. Marcus Chen, the welder from Brooklyn, ceased to exist. Judge Victoria Castellano was officially dead, killed in the courthouse shooting, according to public records. Even Emma Chen became Emma Brennan, complete with school records showing a normal childhood in Ohio. But as they stood in their new backyard that evening, watching Emma play with a neighbor's dog that had wandered over, Marcus realized something crucial. The names were just labels. The truth of who they were, a soldier who'd found purpose, a judge who'd found family, a girl who'd found healing, that remained. No regrets? Victoria asked, leaning against him as they watched Emma laugh for the first time in days. None, Marcus said, meaning it. You? I regret the violence Emma witnessed, the danger I brought. But this? She gestured to Emma, teaching the dog to sit using patient repetition and gentle encouragement. This feels like who we were meant to be. Morrison called that evening with updates. The Benedetto family was destroyed. 17 more arrests made based on Victoria's evidence. Detective Walsh was recovering, would likely return to duty within months. The conspiracy was unraveling, justice finally being served. "You did good, Marcus," Morrison said. "All of you, rest now. Become the Brennans. The past is handled." But Marcus knew better. The past never really died. It just waited. The difference now was he wouldn't face it alone. He had a partner who understood both justice and sacrifice, and a daughter whose emotional intelligence would guide them through whatever came. That night, as they tucked Emma into bed in her new room, with walls she'd already started decorating with ocean pictures, she made one more request. "Can we go see the real ocean, as the Brennans? I want to see if it matches my pictures." "Yes," Victoria said immediately. "Spring break. We'll go to the Outer Banks, see wild horses and lighthouses and—" "Dolphins?" Emma asked hopefully. "We'll try," Marcus promised. As they closed her door, Emma called out one more time. "I love you, both of you." "We love you too," they answered together. Standing in the hallway of their new house, in their new lives, Marcus and Victoria faced each other. The moment stretched, full of possibility and promise. "So, Michael Brennan," Victoria said with a small smile. "What now?" "Now?" Marcus pulled her close, thinking of all they'd lost and all they'd found. "Now, we learn how to be a normal family, whatever that means." Victoria laughed against his shoulder. "Normal might be beyond us, but happy? That we can do." And standing there, holding the woman who'd crashed into their lives with car bombs and conspiracies but stayed for pizza and homework help, Marcus believed her. They could do happy. They could do family. They could do forever if they were brave enough to try. 6 months had passed since they became the Brennans. The Virginia house felt like home now. Emma's artwork covering the refrigerator, Victoria's law books mixing with Marcus's technical manuals on the shelves, family photos from their manufactured past, displayed alongside real moments from their new life. Marcus was in the garage, teaching Emma to change bicycle tires, when the call came. Victoria answered, her face draining of color as she listened. "Walsh is dead," she said quietly after hanging up. "Heart attack this morning. But Marcus, she sent me something yesterday, a package I haven't opened yet." The package sat on their kitchen table like a bomb. Inside was a single flash drive and a note in Walsh's shaky handwriting. "They're not done. Benedetto had a son nobody knew about. He's coming. Trust no one except Morrison." Marcus immediately called Morrison, but the phone rang endlessly. His military contacts, the ones who'd helped them disappear, all unreachable. "Daddy!" Emma stood in the doorway, her emotional radar already picking up the shift in atmosphere. "Are the bad people back?" Before anyone could answer, the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, Marcus saw a man in a marshal's uniform. But something was off. The badge number was wrong, the stance too aggressive for a routine check. "Back door," Marcus whispered. "Now." They moved as they had practiced in those early paranoid weeks. Grab the go bags, no questions, trust the instinct. But as they reached the back door, more men were already there. Not in uniforms this time, just dangerous professionals with the kind of eyes Marcus recognized from his past. "Michael Brennan," one called out. "Or should I say Marcus Chen? We just want to talk." Victoria pulled Emma close while Marcus calculated odds. 6 men that he could see, probably more in reserve. No weapons visible, but certainly carried. The neighbors were at work. No witnesses, no help coming. "Let my family go," Marcus called back. "This is between us." Laughter from outside. "The judge is the one we need, soldier boy. She has something that belongs to our employer. As for the kid, well, that depends on cooperation." Emma broke free from Victoria's grip before anyone could stop her, running to her room. Marcus started after her, but she emerged quickly, holding something none of them expected, the briefcase Victoria had brought that first day, the one supposedly containing all the evidence. "Is this what you want?" Emma called out, her voice steady despite her fear. "The briefcase with all the proof?" "Emma, no!" Victoria started, but the girl was already opening the front door. "Here," Emma said, holding it out to the lead man. "Take it and leave us alone." The man grabbed it greedily, but his expression changed when he opened it. Inside were Emma's drawings, dozens of them, all depicting their family, their new life, their happiness together. "What is this?" he snarled. "Evidence," Emma said simply. "Evidence that we're just a normal family now. Evidence that we love each other. Evidence that hurting us won't get you what you want, because we don't have it anymore." The distraction was enough. Marcus moved, not with the violence of before, but with precision. Smoke grenades Alexei had insisted they keep, filling the house with dense cover. In the chaos, he grabbed both Victoria and Emma, pulling them through a route he'd mapped months ago, through the garage, into the neighbor's yard, down to the drainage tunnel that connected to the park. They could hear shouting behind them, the sound of pursuit, but Marcus knew these suburbs better than the attackers. 6 months of paranoid preparation paying off in moments that mattered. They emerged near the elementary school just as classes were letting out. Perfect cover. Dozens of families, too many witnesses for violence. Marcus spotted a familiar face. Mrs. Patterson, Emma's teacher, leading students to buses. "Mrs. Patterson!" Emma called out, running to her. "These men are following us. Bad men." The teacher, a former Marine herself, as Marcus had learned at a parent conference, took one look at their faces and understood. She pulled out her phone, not calling 911, but live streaming. "Facebook Live," she announced loudly, showing a beautiful day at Meadowbrook Elementary where the Brennan family is visiting. The pursuing men stopped at the school's edge, realizing they were now on camera, potentially being broadcast to thousands. They retreated, but Marcus knew it was temporary. Morrison finally called back an hour later, while they sheltered in the school's principal's office. "We have a problem," he said without preamble. "Anthony Benedetto Jr., he's been in Sicily for 10 years, completely off our radar. Now he's back, and he's convinced Victoria has evidence we missed." "We destroyed everything," Victoria protested. "It all went to the FBI." "Not everything. Walsh found something else. Financial records hidden in international banks. Shell companies we didn't know existed. She was investigating alone, and now she's dead," Marcus finished, "and they think we have what she found." "There's more," Morrison continued. "I've been ordered to bring you in, official channels. But Marcus, something's wrong. The order came from people who shouldn't even know you exist." The trap was closing. Marcus could feel it, that familiar sensation from missions gone wrong, when extraction routes collapsed and enemies appeared where allies should be. "We're going dark," Marcus decided. "Full black. Don't try to find us." "Marcus?" He hung up, pulled the battery from the phone. Victoria was already doing the same with hers, understanding without explanation. "We can't run forever," she said quietly. "Not running. Hunting." Marcus turned to Emma, who was listening with that too-adult expression. "Baby, I need you to remember everything Walsh said when she visited last month. Every word." Emma closed her eyes, that remarkable memory working. "She said the real prize wasn't in the briefcase. She said it was in the source. She said, follow the art." Victoria gasped. "Sarah's paintings, your wife's paintings." Walsh commented on them, asked where they were from. Marcus felt the pieces clicking. Sarah had been an art therapist, yes, but her clients, some had been connected families, people seeking legitimacy through charity, cleaning money through art donations. "The storage unit," he breathed. "Sarah's old studio supplies, her client files, would have records," Victoria finished. "Patient notes that might reference financial crimes, money laundering through art sales." They had to get to Brooklyn. The journey back to New York was surreal. 3 people who'd fled this city returning to face what they'd run from. Emma sat between them on the train, drawing continuously, her way of processing. She drew Walsh as an angel, herself as a warrior, her parents as shields. "Are we going to fight them?" she asked as Manhattan's skyline appeared. "We're going to end this," Marcus promised, "once and for all." The storage facility in Brooklyn was unchanged, frozen in time like a memorial to their old life. Marcus hadn't been back since grabbing emergency supplies that first day. Now, entering Unit 347, he was overwhelmed by Sarah's presence. Canvases she'd painted, supplies she'd organized, the easel still holding her last unfinished work. Victoria found the files in a locked cabinet, exactly where Sarah's methodical nature would have placed them. patient notes, carefully coded but decipherable. And there, Anthony Benedetto Sr., seeking therapy for anger issues, talking about his son in Sicily, about bank accounts, about art purchases that were really payment for murders. "This is it," Victoria breathed. "This breaks everything wide open. International crime, money laundering, murders across 3 continents." "Mom," Emma said. She'd taken to calling Victoria that naturally now. "Someone's coming." They heard it too. Footsteps in the corridor, multiple people, moving with purpose. Marcus positioned himself by the door, while Victoria grabbed Emma, ready to flee through the facility's back exit. But the voice that called out wasn't threatening. "It's Alexei, with friends." The door opened to reveal not just Alexei, but a team, his old squad, men Marcus had served with before Delta Force, before everything changed. "Thought you might need backup," Alexei said with a grin. "Morrison might be compromised, but we're not." "How did you find us?" "Emma," Alexei held up a drawing that had been posted to the school's Facebook page, seemingly innocent but containing details only Marcus would recognize as coordinates. "Your daughter signaled. Smart girl." "I learned from Daddy," Emma said proudly. "Hidden messages in plain sight." The reunion was short-lived. Anthony Benedetto Jr. had found them too, arriving with a force that suggested military training, political connections, and unlimited resources. The storage facility became a battlefield. But this time was different. This time, Marcus wasn't alone. His brothers in arms moved with him, a unit reformed by loyalty rather than orders. Victoria didn't cower. She directed, using her legal knowledge to ensure every action would hold up in the court, recording everything on multiple devices. And Emma was extraordinary. When the fighting started, instead of freezing, she used the facility's PA system she'd noticed during a school field trip to this same building months ago. "Attention, everyone!" her voice echoed through speakers. "This is Emma Brennan. Bad men are trying to hurt my family at Unit 347. Please call 911. Please help us. My daddy says good people help when help is needed. Please be good people." Within minutes, sirens filled the air. Not just police, but media, alerted by the viral live stream from earlier. Anthony Benedetto Jr., caught between Special Forces veterans and approaching law enforcement, made a fatal error. He tried to grab Emma as a hostage. Marcus's world narrowed to a single point. Not the soldier's calculation of angles and probabilities, but a father's absolute clarity. The shot was impossible. 30 feet, moving target, his daughter in the line of fire. He made it anyway. Anthony Benedetto Jr. dropped with a shoulder wound that would heal but incapacitated him completely. Emma ran to Marcus, then to Victoria, pulling them both together as police flooded in. "See," she said through tears, "together, we're stronger together." The aftermath was cleaner this time. Alexei's team had legal authority through Morrison's final act, a black ops authorization that made their actions legitimate. The evidence from Sarah's files broke the case internationally. Anthony Benedetto Jr. faced life in prison, the last of his family's empire crumbling. But the real victory came a week later, in a federal courthouse where Victoria, no longer hiding as Victoria Brennan, testified one final time. She stood as Judge Victoria Castellano Chen, having legally married Marcus the day before, in a ceremony witnessed by Emma, Alexei, and, surprisingly, Morrison, who'd fought through bureaucratic hell to clear his own name. "Your Honor," the prosecutor asked, "do you swear the evidence provided is true and complete?" "I do," Victoria said, looking at Marcus and Emma in the gallery. "The complete truth is that corruption can only thrive when good people do nothing. Today, good people did something." As they left the courthouse, Emma between them, hands linked, photographers captured what would become an iconic image: a soldier, a judge, and a child who'd chosen to be family against all odds. "Can we go to the ocean now?" Emma asked. "For real this time?" "Yes," Marcus and Victoria said together. "And then home?" Emma continued. "Our real home, where we're just the Brennans who love each other?" Marcus lifted his daughter onto his shoulders, Victoria's hand in his, thinking of all the violence that had led to this moment of peace. "Yes, baby, home." But Emma, wise beyond her years, had the last word as they walked toward their new beginning. "Home isn't a place, Daddy. It's us. Wherever we are, as long as we're together, we're home. And she was right. They were home. 1 year later, the beach house in the Outer Banks stood weathered and welcoming against the Atlantic horizon. It wasn't grand, just a 2-story cottage with cedar shingles gone gray from salt air. But to Emma, it was paradise. She ran barefoot through the sand, her laughter mixing with the cry of seagulls, finally seeing the ocean she'd drawn 1,000 times. "It's bigger than my pictures," she called back to Marcus and Victoria, who watched from the deck, coffee mugs warming their hands in the cool morning air. "Everything real usually is," Victoria said softly, leaning into Marcus's shoulder. They'd bought the house with the reward money. Various agencies had put bounties on the Benedetto network, and Victoria's evidence had earned them enough to start truly fresh. Not rich, but comfortable, safe, free. Marcus had opened a small security consulting firm, helping domestic violence shelters upgrade their protection systems. It used his skills for purely defensive purposes, and Emma loved visiting the shelters, reading to younger children while Marcus installed cameras and panic buttons. Victoria worked part-time for a legal aid society, helping families navigate custody battles and protective orders. She'd been offered judgeship positions 3 times, but declined them all. "I've seen justice from that height," she'd explained. "Now I want to help from ground level." But today was special. Today marked exactly 1 year since the courthouse shooting, and they'd invited everyone who'd become their extended family to celebrate survival, renewal, and the strange ways life creates connection. Morrison arrived first, officially retired but looking younger without the weight of command. He brought his grandson, a shy boy Emma's age, who immediately joined her shell hunting expedition. "Never thought I'd see Marcus Chen domesticated," Morrison teased, watching Marcus flip pancakes in the kitchen. "Not domesticated," Marcus corrected. "Evolved." Alexei came next, bringing his new wife, a nurse he'd met during one of Walsh's hospital stays. They'd bonded over protecting Victoria's family, and love had grown from shared purpose. "Little warrior," Alexei boomed, lifting Emma into a bear hug. "Show me these dolphins you're always drawing." "They're real, Uncle Alexei. I saw them yesterday. A whole pod, just like Daddy said we'd see." Mrs. Patterson, Emma's former teacher who'd live-streamed their escape, arrived with her Marine husband. She'd become like a grandmother to Emma, teaching her to read in new ways that worked with her dyslexia rather than against it. Even Mrs. Patel from the Brooklyn bodega came, bringing containers of homemade samosas and stories of how the old neighborhood had changed. The storage unit building had been demolished, but she'd saved something, one of Sarah's paintings that had been donated to the community center years ago. "She painted hope," Mrs. Patel said, presenting it to them. "Like you've built hope from sadness." As the sun reached its peak, they gathered on the beach. Emma had insisted on a ceremony, not sad, she'd specified, but celebrating. She stood before them all, no longer the traumatized girl who'd gone silent, but a confident 9-year-old who'd learned that broken things could become beautiful. "I want to tell you all something," Emma began, her voice clear despite the wind. "A year ago, bad things happened. People tried to hurt us. Some good people got hurt protecting us. We lost our home and our names and the life we knew." She paused, looking at Marcus and Victoria. "But we found something better. We found that family isn't just blood, it's choice. Every person here chose to help us when it was dangerous. That makes you all family." Emma pulled out a bottle, a message in a bottle she'd prepared. "Inside is a letter to Detective Walsh. I know she's gone, but Daddy says the ocean connects everything. So maybe it'll reach her somehow. It says thank you, and that we're okay, that we're more than okay, we're happy." Together, they waded into the surf. Emma threw the bottle as far as her young arms could manage, and they watched it bob away on the waves. Victoria was crying, Marcus too, though he'd deny it later. As the group dispersed along the beach, some walking, some building sandcastles with the children, some just sitting in companionable silence, Morrison approached Marcus privately. "There's something you should know," he said quietly. "The investigation's finally complete. Every thread followed, every connection mapped. You're truly free. No one's looking for any of you anymore." "You're sure?" "Completely. Marcus Chen is officially dead, killed in the courthouse shooting. Michael Brennan has a perfect record going back decades. And Victoria Castellano Chen, well, she's a hero judge who retired for family reasons. Clean slates all around. Marcus felt a weight he hadn't realized he was still carrying finally lift. Thank you, Colonel. Jim, Morrison corrected. We're civilians now, just Jim. That evening, as their guests departed and the house grew quiet, the family of three sat on the deck, watching the sunset paint the ocean in shades of gold and crimson. Emma was sketching, capturing the moment in her unique way. What are you drawing? Victoria asked. Our story, Emma said, showing them the sketch. It was three figures on a beach, but surrounded by ghostly outlines of others. Sarah watching benevolently, Walsh standing guard, all the people who had helped them floating like guardian angels in the background. It's beautiful, Victoria said, her voice thick with emotion. It's true, Emma corrected. Mrs. Patterson says the best art is truth, with feelings added. Marcus studied his daughter's drawing, seeing in it something profound. They'd all lost their original lives. Him, his wife, and military career. Victoria, her judgeship and independence. Emma, her innocence and the only home she'd known. But from those losses, they'd built something unprecedented. Tell me about tomorrow, Marcus said, a game they'd started playing in the safe house when the future seemed impossible. Tomorrow, Emma began, I'm going to swim in the ocean with Mom while you watch from the beach because you're scared of jellyfish. I'm not scared, I'm cautious, Marcus protested. Tomorrow, Victoria continued, I'm going to burn breakfast because I'm still learning, but you'll both eat it anyway and say it's good. Tomorrow, Marcus added, we're going to be exactly who we are today, a family that chose each other. But better, Emma insisted, always a little better than yesterday. As darkness fell and the stars emerged, clearer here than they'd ever been in Brooklyn, Emma asked a question that had been building all day. Do you think Mom, my first mom, would be happy about us? Marcus and Victoria exchanged glances over Emma's head. I think, Marcus said carefully, she'd be grateful you have someone else to love you. She'd be proud of how brave you've been. And she'd probably laugh at how bad Victoria is at cooking. Hey, Victoria protested, but she was smiling. She's in the stars now, right? Emma asked. And the ocean, and in my drawings. She's in you, Victoria said. In your kindness, your strength, your ability to see beauty even after witnessing ugliness. That's your mother's gift, living on through you. Emma considered this, then nodded decisively. Then she's in our family too. Because I'm in our family and she's in me, so she's here. The logic was perfectly Emma. Emotional truth expressed through a child's understanding of connection and continuity. Later, after Emma had gone to bed, clutching both Mr. Peanuts and a new stuffed dolphin Marcus had bought her, he and Victoria stood at their bedroom window, watching moonlight dance on the waves. Did you ever imagine this? Victoria asked. When you pulled me from that car? No, Marcus admitted. I thought I was just paying forward a debt. I never imagined. He gestured to encompass the house, the beach, the life they had built. I was so focused on justice, Victoria said. I never understood grace. The grace of second chances, of unexpected families, of love after loss. Sarah would have liked you, Marcus said suddenly. You're both fighters. Both saw the world as it should be, not just as it was. I hope I honor her memory, raising her daughter, loving her husband. You honor it by being yourself, Marcus interrupted, by teaching Emma about justice and law while I teach her about protection and strength, by being the mother Emma needs now, not trying to replace the one she lost. They stood in comfortable silence, two people who'd been broken by life and rebuilt by choice, watching the eternal rhythm of waves that had witnessed so much human drama yet remained unchanged. A soft knock interrupted them. Emma stood in the doorway, not upset but thoughtful. Can't sleep, baby? Marcus asked. I was thinking, Emma said, about our story, how it started with something bad, the explosion, but it became something good. That happens sometimes, Victoria said, making room for Emma between them at the window. I want to write it down, Emma continued. Not the scary parts, but the important parts. How strangers became family. How being brave doesn't mean not being scared. How Daddy's friend Mrs. Sarah helped you even though she never met you, and you helped us even though you didn't know us. That's a big project, Marcus said. Mrs. Patterson will help. She says I tell stories better than I write them, so she'll write while I talk. Emma looked up at them. Is that okay? To tell our story? Marcus and Victoria exchanged glances. Their story included classified information, witness protection, violence no child should have seen. But it also included hope, resilience, and the triumph of love over fear. Tell the story that matters, Victoria said finally. The story of how we became us. The story of the Brennan family, Emma said firmly, who used to be other people but decided to be better people together. As they tucked Emma back into bed, she made one last observation that would stay with them forever. You know what I learned? Bad things happen to everyone, but good things happen too, if you let them. The bad things that happened to us led to the good thing of us being together. So maybe there's no pure bad or pure good, just things that happen and what we choose to do with them. Marcus kissed his daughter's forehead, marveling at her wisdom. Victoria smoothed her hair, adding her own goodnight blessing. They stood in her doorway for a moment, watching her drift to sleep, this remarkable child who'd survived trauma and emerged not hardened but deepened, not cynical but wisely hopeful. Walking back to their room hand in hand, Marcus thought about Emma's words. She was right. Their story had begun with violence and fear, with a judge fleeing death and a soldier stepping out of hiding. But it had become something else entirely. A love story, a family story, a story of redemption and resilience. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges. Emma still struggled with reading. Victoria still woke from nightmares. Marcus still checked exits and assessed threats wherever they went. They were healing, but not healed, safe but still cautious, happy but aware that happiness required vigilance to protect. But tonight, in a beach house filled with the sound of waves and the breathing of people he loved, Marcus Chen, who had become Michael Brennan, knew a peace he'd never imagined possible. Not the peace of isolation he'd sought after Sarah's death, but the peace of connection, of purpose, of a future worth protecting. I love you, he told Victoria as they lay in bed, the words still feeling new after a year of saying them. I love you too, she replied, and I love our daughter, and I love this life we've built from ruins. Outside, the ocean continued its eternal conversation with the shore, and somewhere in its vast embrace, a bottle with a child's message to a fallen hero bobbed on the currents, carrying gratitude across waters that connected all things. In the morning, there would be burnt pancakes and laughter, swimming lessons and sandcastles, the ordinary magic of a family that had chosen to be extraordinary in their love for each other. But for now, in the quiet darkness, 3 hearts beat in 3 separate rooms of the same house, connected by something stronger than blood, deeper than law, more enduring than fear. They were home, they were safe, they were family. And that, as Emma would say, was the most important truth of all. The end. Kich ban hoan chin John Juoch viet song voi tong kong koang 24 faumandotu. Sao chuyen ve Marquis, Victoria va Emma Jan kep lai voi mot ke tuch jai. Hi vong va am ap. The hien tong jiep ve suchua lan. Tin yeu va gia jin juach hing tan kong chi tu huye tong me du sulua chon vai hai sin.